Hello, my creative friends. I'm Heather North of heatherscreativeblessings.com, and today some of my fellow Stamp Nation design team members and I are teaming up with Tracey McNeely for her 25 Days of Christmas Tags blog hop. This was such a fun idea that I couldn't stop at just one tag, so I'm actually going to show you two tags today, starting with the more complicated one that I have posted on her blog. I started with a piece of distressed watercolor paper. I think the Stampin' Up! Watercolor paper would be even better in this case, but I'm all out because the distressed watercolor paper is really white, whereas the Stampin' Up! One has a little bit of a cream. But anyways, I just use what I have. It works. I took some distress inks and I just squished them onto my mat, and then I sprayed both the inks and my paper with water to get the inks really flowing and moving. As you can see, I laid the paper into the ink and just kind of squished it around some more. And here I'm taking my heat tool to dry the ink. You could just set it aside and let it dry on its own, but I don't have the patience for that, number one. And I like how I can really move that loose, watery ink and get more of that watercolor look that is so pretty. I'm just going to repeat this process until I get the look that I'm going for, the depth of color, and also I like the little spots that I get. As it starts to get muddy, I will dry it and then go back again. And as the watercolor or as the ink dries, it will lighten. So you'll probably want to repeat this step at least 2, maybe 3 times. If you find that your ink has blended all into one color, you can always come back in with some more color, or you can wipe up the ink and start all over again with fresh ink. Once you're happy with your piece, you can hit it one last time with the heat tool, or just set it aside to dry. Cleanup is really easy. I just take a baby wipe, but you can also take a wet paper towel. If you'd like to make several tags, just dip another piece of watercolor paper into that wet ink. Now that my tag is dry, I just spritzed it with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to come in here with some weathered wood and iced spruce, and I'm going to ink up my background stamp. I'm not being careful to get every little spot inked. And any background stamp would work here. I think a nice script is really pretty. But what this does is it gives it a weathered look. It kind of looks like it got a little wet, which it did, and it smears a little, which is good. It's kind of the look I wanted. My paper got warped and I want it to lay flat. So what I've done is I've just taken some temporary adhesive and I'm just taping it down to, this is just a piece of scrap paper on a clipboard. And then I'm going to come in with my stencil. This stencil is from Penny Black. It's called Endearing, and it has a little bit of sticky on it. I used some spray adhesive, and actually it lost a lot of its sticky, so I'm going to take some washi tape to stick it down and keep it in place. But if you have any intricate dies or intricate stencils that you would like to use, I highly recommend getting a multi-use or temporary spray adhesive because it will help keep the stencil down and in place. But for this, I'm just going to take my washi tape. I decided to turn the stencil on an angle to give it just a little bit of a different look. The embossing paste I'm using, it's a metallic gold embossing paste from Wendy Becky. My friend Christy from Creative Christy gave it to me. And it's really a beautiful creamy gold. So what I do is I just spread it onto my paper, onto that stencil. I'm being careful. I use the back side of my scraper. But I'm trying to be careful not to lift the stencil as I do this. I accidentally got some embossing paste where I didn't want it, so I just used my finger to lift it up. It really doesn't matter on this background piece because it's so busy you won't even be able to tell. We're going to need to set this aside to dry before we do any stamping, but I just want to show you what I used on the first tag. It's Compliments of the Season from Waltzing Mouse Stamps, and I used the Yuletide Blessings. And then after I had it stamped, I could position my die exactly where I wanted it to die cut it out. And the die I used is from Pretty Pink Posh. I think it's called Stitch Duo 1. And then I took some red satin ribbon and gold baker's twine, both from Stampin' Up, to just tie off the top of my tag. And that completes my first tag. And now I'll show you an easier way to make your second tag. It is so much fun to create your own background paper, but with the time crunch at Christmas and all the beautiful papers that are out there nowadays, you really can just use some designer series paper you find. This happens to be the Cartographer stack from Prima, and it has all these different letters and maps and different things. You could use any one of them. I chose one that had, I think, a wagon wheel on it even, but once you add your stenciling and you die cut it down and add your stamping, you're never going to know what's in the background. So just kind of choose a neutral background. This time I'm going to take that same temporary adhesive and just adhere it to my my mat. I think it's the Ranger craft mat. To speed up the process and eliminate the drying time, I'm going to take some Golden Glitz Delicata ink and my sponge dauber, and I'm just going to sponge that ink right onto my tag. You could use washi tape to hold the stencil in place, but I do have a little bit of sticky left on the back, so I'm just going to hold it with my fingers and hold my breath and hope that I don't mess it up. I'm just lifting up the corner to see if I have it fully inked, and then I can come back in if I missed anything. And then I'll lift up the other corner, and it looks good. That left side looked a little bit bare to me in one of the spots. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to twist the stencil and add a few more leaves to that one spot. Another baby wipe makes for quick cleanup of both the grid mat and my stencil. For this tag, I'm going to pull out a different sentiment from Compliments of the Season. Again, this stamp set's from Waltzing Mouse Stamps. And I love that with clear stamps you can see exactly where you are stamping. I'm trying out an ink that's new for me. It's called Black Hero Hues from Hero Arts. And I'm just going to stamp my sentiment right in between those holly leaves to the bottom right corner. Your next step should be to punch a hole and add your ribbon, but I skipped ahead. Oops. I'm adding some red stickles to just add a touch of glitter and red to my holly berries. I did that on both cards, by the way. And then I had to set it aside and let it dry. And now I'm just taking an eraser and I'm erasing that temporary adhesive that I had on the back of this tag. You can use any hole punch, crocodile, anything really to punch a hole, but I have the slot punch. It's an old one from Stampin' Up. I'm sure it's retired many moons ago. But I'm just going to try and center it and then punch out a little slit. I had originally used the Real Red woven satin ribbon from Stampin' Up, but I decided to change it out for this Cherry Cobbler sheer linen. It's a little bit of a deeper, darker color, and I thought it would go well with the kind of brown neutral background. So as you can see, I just slid it through the slot and tied it into a knot. And now I'm going to do the same thing with my second tag. The background of this tag has a lot of white in it, so I thought it would look better with the brighter color of the Real Red woven satin ribbon. So I'm just going to tie it into a double knot and trim off the ends. I didn't like it the first time, so I just redid it. And that will complete both of my tags. I hope that you will join Tracey on this blog hop. There are some fabulous prizes. Check out the links below to find out some more information. And if you like this video, be sure and give me a thumbs up. And if you would like to see some more tags from me, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below letting me know, because I just might be inspired to make several more tags for you. I hope you find some time today to get a little bit creative. Thank you for joining me. Bye.